This one's a doozy, friends. Do not draft these players on your 9-category fantasy team. Welcome to Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball. I am Dan Besbris. I've got a new mixer today, so pardon me if I'm screwing anything up or sounding a little bit weird. Just trying to work some new equipment into the mix, and the levels are a little bit wonky in my dying earbuds. We'll deal with that later. I wanted to get this content out as quickly as humanly possible. And so here we go. First thing, like, rate, and subscribe. I think some of you lately have been forgetting to do those things. So please, I beg of you, please like, rate, and subscribe, particularly the liking and the subscribings. Also, follow me on Twitter at Dan Besbris and follow at Old Man Squad on Twitter. That one will follow you back. In addition, you get all the really amazing stuff from not only just me, but all of our incredible hosts over at the Old Man Squad. Today is my do not draft list, also doubling as a bust list. I did not pick anyone from outside the top 100. I thought that was kind of cheating, because guys outside the top 100 are often kind of bad. So to say don't draft these guys at 110, who cares? You blow your 10th round pick, your team will be fine. This list today is, by the way, in the order that I dislike them. It's not in order of ADP. It's not chronological. It is actually personal preference. So the guys that I list first are the guys that I hate the most in fantasy. I got no problem with these dudes in reality, so please don't conflate the two. That is what we're going through today, and I hope you guys understand the parameters. Yahoo Rank Board Revision 2 is the board we're using right now. There will be another revision, and we will adjust our board accordingly, because some of these guys, if they move 15, 20 slots, become not disasters in fantasy. But where they are right now, they are not good. And so it's important that you guys know that's the board we're working on. Number one, and it has to be, I'm sorry, everybody, is Paulo Banchero at pick number 37. I'm so very, very sorry, because Paolo is an incredible young talent in the NBA, and he's going on to a great career. But from a fantasy standpoint, he's a freaking disaster. By the way, BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything football. BetOnline has every stat, every matchup, even live odds and spreads to bet on during the games. Plus, think you know your stuff? Get in on their $200,000 mega contest to pick 5 games against the spread every week for your chance at weekly prizes and a share of that $200,000. And then, when the game you're watching is over, and the game you've bet on is over, head into the BetOnline online casino, play some blackjack, some poker, unwind with over 150 slot games. Head to BetOnline today to get in on the action. BetOnline, the game starts here. So here's the issue with Paulo Banchero, and you guys all know what I'm going to say, or many of you do, but folks that are coming for the first time that are ready to get up in arms and light the torches and come after me, Paulo Banchero is not a 9-category fantasy player. It's just straight up that simple. Last year, dude averaged 22.5 points, 7 rebounds, 5.5 assists. All that stuff is just fantastic. I have no problem with any of those categories. What I do have a problem with is that in 9 category, that's 3 of the 9 categories. Paulo Banchero is a fantasy negative in the other 6. Now, you could make the argument that for a power forward, 1.5 threes isn't all that bad. Okay, fine. But I don't really like the for a whatever kind of thing. If a guy you're drafting basically here at the end of the 3rd, beginning of the 4th round, he hit 1.5 3-pointers a game, that's basically a negative in the modern NBA. 0.9 steals, basically a negative. I mean, again, kind of like fine for a power forward, but not good. 0.6 blocks, a negative. 45.5% from the field on a lot of shots, pretty good negative. 72.5% at the free throw line on a lot of foul shots, pretty big negative. 3.1 turnovers from your 4th round pick, a pretty good sized negative. This is a dude that, and like, look, you can stare me in the eye and you can say, he fits my build, Dan. And I'd say, is your build punting both percentages and turnovers? Because here's the thing. Paolo in 8-cat is obviously much better than Paolo in 9, because the other guys ranked near 170 or whatever he was last year typically are lower turnover guys. So if you turn off turnovers, Turn off, turnover. He's number 98. Okay, climbs into the top 100. Still, by the way, not even remotely close to number 37. Not even in the vicinity of it. Okay, you say, Dan, I'm punting free throws too. Congratulations. You are a complicated team. But now Paolo is ranked 57th. No turnovers, no free throws. These are big helps to him. He's moved up about 120 slots, but he's still not at number 37. And then you say, Dan, I'm going full punt all of the percentages and turnovers, and I am exclusively hunting volume everything. Well then, friends, you've found it, because Paolo last year was number 42 in that format, which is effectively a points league format. Not 9-cat, not 8-cat, points league. He got to number 42, which is, for all intents and purposes, equal to number 37. They are close enough that you can just say that's basically the same thing. It's not exactly the same, but it's pretty close. And then you say, all right, well, I think he's going to take some small strides forward this year. I think both percentages are going to get a little bit better, and then with them, the scoring will also get a little bit better as well. Okay, great. So the 42 in points league probably does beat 37 if he gets a little bit better. But again, the type of jump he needs to make, if you're not punting all three of those categories, is quite significant. Quite significant. And I see almost no path to get him there without a triple punt. And not just a triple punt, but a triple mismatched category punt. You're punting a guard category, a big category, and then another guard category. So, yeah, nah. Next one on the list is Dejounte Murray. He is my second least. I don't know. I can't figure out the right way to phrase it. He is the second worst. I hate saying it like that because I got no problem with these dudes, and I love watching most of them, but he is the second worst, I think, fantasy play on the board right now. Dejounte Murray at number 29 is lower, by the way, than where he opened up. He opened up, I believe, at number 24, and he's moved down 5 slots, and it's still way too early. Dejounte Murray last year was number 38 in 9-cat, and that was with just one high usage player to deal with in Trae Young. Now, admittedly, Trae Young is a big time ball guy. He's like, it's in his hands whenever he's on the basketball court. But we're talking about a year where Dejounte Murray basically had the highest usage he's ever had. Or you could call it roughly equal to what he was doing that last year in San Antonio. But the big difference, of course, is that in San Antonio, he was the lead guy. He was the number one with all that usage. So he was the point guard, and he was the scoring guy, and he was racking up big steals numbers. And in my mind, he's going to a place where even if you think he immediately slots into a top 2 position on the roster, there are just a lot of other guys that are doing stuff. You got Zion, who's likely to be the number 1, or should be, certainly, when he's upright. You've got Brandon Ingram, who's still there, and if he gets moved, then I reserve the right to alter some of my assessments of the Pelicans. You've got CJ McCollum, who, again, all of these guys are going to take little hits, but then you also add in Dejounte Murray, and you're still trying to get Trey Murphy enough shots in the mix, and he's coming from a place in Atlanta where it was Trae Young, then him, and then somewhere way off in the rear view, Bogdan Bogdanovic, who wasn't even starting. So you could stagger the minutes and blah, blah, blah. He took 19 shots a game last year in Atlanta. He's not a positive in either percentage, by the way. So what you need out of Dejounte Murray to get into the 20s again is for him to continue to score in the 20s this year, which I don't think is actually a guarantee. And you need the assists and the steals to come back up. Or one of them to go way up, I guess, is the other option there. Like, what if assists got back up to 9.5 instead of 6.5? I don't think that crap is happening in New Orleans. What if steals went all the way back up to 2 instead of 1.4? I mean, you could see it get to like 1.6. You could see the assists get into the 7s. And that's enough to move him up the board close to this ADP, I guess. But that also means he's going to still need to be taking 19 shots on top of whatever that other stuff is, which would then equate to, simple math here, higher usage. So do we really think he's going to a place in New Orleans where the usage is up? I really don't. So then you start to play the percentages a little bit. If his usage goes down, what are the odds that all of the other stuff can cover that up? Derek White is kind of the example of a guy who wasn't expected to do a ton, but let all of his other fantasy stuff shine last year, and he was number 27. But a lot of that was just because he got a full job. He hit a ton of threes at a really high clip, and he both blocked shots and got steals, which has always kind of been Derek White's thing. Like, it fit, and he got super efficient. I don't think that Dejounte Murray is about to just magically turn into a hyper-efficient dude. Derek White, if you're going to use that as an example, he's a better outside shooter. Dejounte, obviously, better at, driving and getting to the rim and all that stuff. But, they're so very, very different in their offensive game. So, look, I think Dejounte Murray makes the Pelicans a whole hell of a lot better. But taking him with a mid-third round pick is... well, you're just not playing the odds. 5-10% chance he gets to this mark. It's not zero. Nothing is ever zero. Although Paolo's pretty close to zero, getting to that mark in 9-cat without multiple punts. Dejounte has an outside, slim, fleeting chance of getting near that mark in 9-cat without any punts. But then you get into the punt side, and you're like, okay, well, maybe I'm punting field goal percent with Murray, or I'm punting free throw, and from a guard position, he's not providing all that much. I don't think he's going to be so over the top amazing at any one thing where you're just like, oh, yeah, he's a traditional punt guy. Because he's kind of bad at field goal percent, but he's not a disaster there. Same story with free throw. Why would you take that guy there when there are other dudes you could take that fit that build better? Like Cade Cunningham, who's a more traditional, guard type build. Third name on the list is Khris Middleton at 83. I think he has a chance to be the biggest headache in fantasy basketball again. That would make it basically 3 years running that Khris Middleton has been the biggest headache in fantasy basketball. For some reason, he's been forgiven. And I get it. Listen, you guys know me. You guys know that I'm a dude who plays Games Cap Roto with most of my leagues. I know most of you guys are playing head-to-head, and that's why I try to make sure we tailor the shows appropriately. I typically I often take the injury-prone older guy who has big per-game upside, and then you just pray for 55 to 65 games in the season. I don't think it's worth it with Middleton because they kid-gloved him so hard last year that he only averaged 27 minutes over the entire year, and he's not even coming into this season healthy. We already know he had bilateral ankle surgery in the offseason. He had it on both. Double ankle surgery. That's a horrible way to come into a season. That means that dude hasn't really been able to get any exercise for I don't know how long after the surgery, but he's going to be running way behind. And then there's other injuries that are going to crop up because he's probably going to try to play through something or he's going to be knocking rust off. I think it's going to be so annoying. If you can get him after pick 105, 110, then at least you're all right, well, worst case scenario, this dude's number 100 per game and I'm suffering through another injury-plagued season. But at 83, there's a lot of there's good choices on the board that aren't him. I want nothing to do with Middleton's on and off the IL crap because I don't think he has that top 40 in him anymore, especially not with Dame around. Middleton was the number 2 guy on that team for a long time. He's not, even when he's healthy right now. He's number 3. There's a big difference between number 2 and number 3. I think the upside is capped with Middleton to some degree. I mean, it's obviously higher than what he did in 27 minutes a game last year. It's probably more 60s range, but there's just not enough buffer there. So hell no. Number 4, and this dude honestly could have been the number 1 guy. I absolutely hate where Clint Capela is going this season, and I don't think I'm alone in this one. This makes absolutely no sense to me. He was number 95 in 9-cat last year, and if you're punting free throw, he obviously moves in front of that to number 59. But here's the thing about Clint Capela. There's a few, actually. Thing number 1, His minutes have been trending down for years as the Hawks continue to slowly indicate that they want to do more Onyeka Okongwu. And they should. That would be more fun for them, even if Capela is a better rebounder and probably a better rim protector. So there's almost no chance that Capela's role gets bigger season over season, meaning last year was probably about as good as it was going to get, and that was number 95 without a punt. The other thing about Clint Capela is that right now, his ADP is an absurd 74, which is about halfway in between his 9-cat rank and his punt free throw rank. There's no reason at all, and I've said this on other shows, to draft Clint Capela at 74 when you can just take a different punt free throw guy who pretty much had the exact same rank as Capela last year 1, 2, 3 rounds later. They're all over the map. Derek Lively almost had the same value to a fantasy team as Clint Capela last season. Capela, obviously a better rebounder. Mitchell Robinson. He only played 24 and a half minutes a game last year because of injury. That dude gets up to 27, and he just clobbers Capela in a punt free throw build. Trace Jackson Davis. During, well, let's see, what was that? Like the stretch run, so last 2 months-ish of the season. In a punt free throw build, he was right behind Capela. Capela was 72 over the last 25 games, punting free throws. Trace Jackson Davis was 78. Mitchell Robinson didn't really play, so you can kind of take him off the board there. Daniel Gafford was number 36. He did struggle from the foul line down the stretch. Not usually, but he did down the stretch. Onyeka Okongwu, who's not even a bad foul shooter, was around the 75 mark in that range. The list is seemingly endless on this one. Walker Kessler, if he gets some of his shot blocking back, also a pretty easy call in that instance. So you got all these late punt free throw guys kicking around. Jakob Poeltl, who's going a round or two later than Capela. He's not even what you call a classic punt free throw guy because he doesn't take very many, but he was way better than Clint down the stretch. I don't even remember how many options I just gave you guys there, but it's a bunch. So there is just no reason at all to want Clint Capela on your fantasy team. He's going too early for what he is, and there are equally valuable options going 3 rounds later, and it seems like Capela's trending down. So all the reasons to say no. Brandon Ingram at number 58 is the next one on the board. Brandon Ingram gets a constant pass despite being always beat up. He played 64 games last year, which by all accounts was kind of a win because he's gone through year after year after year where he's just not there. 64 last year, 45 the year before, 55 the year before that. He was relatively healthy his first 2 seasons in New Orleans, missed about 10, 11 ball games, which you can kind of handle that. His last 2 seasons with the Lakers, he missed 30 and 23. He's not there. Like odds of him getting to 85 games play or percent of the team's game played are incredibly low. And then you have to factor in the fact that he's on this Pelicans team that just got way deeper. Ingram was number 85 in 9-cat last year while taking 16 shots a game. That number is going down. And he's another guy who, yes, is a little bit better in 8-cat than 9. So that's part of it. 8-cat last year, he was number 60. So if you're punting turnovers, he gets basically to where what his rank is right now. But he's going the wrong way. That was probably as good as it was going to get. So if you're playing 9-cat, it's like an easy no decision. 8-cat, he gets a little bit closer, but I still think he's trending down. I don't think this is all that hot takey. I wouldn't be that surprised to see Brandon Ingram in 9-cat ranked outside the top 100 this year. He'll have perfectly reasonable scoring, but I don't think he's getting to 21 points a game again. I don't think he's getting to 5.7 assists a game again. 5 rebounds, maybe. So the only thing I think sticks for Ingram is rebounds. Everything else is going the wrong way, and they're trying to unload him, which, if he ends up on a team where he gets to be the focal point, then you flip this whole thing on its head, and he becomes a guy you got to draft. But as far as right now, He probably just got bumped down from like the 2A, 2B rung with McCollum down to third fiddle, likely behind Dejounte Murray and Zion. And hell, some days McCollum. Not every day, but some days. And he's hurt all the time. Lots of reasons to hate Brandon Ingram at 58. We're getting into the last few names on the board. These are guys that I don't hate as much. They made the do not draft list because I didn't want to do a 5-name show, but Franz Wagner is the next one. I don't think he's a team-breaking type of pick, but he was 70th last year, and it feels like that team is just going to keep slowly moving more and more towards Paolo's team. I think Franz kind of capped out on how much he's going to do. They added more spacing, which is good in KCP, and also that brought some defense in. Not that Kentavious Caldwell-Pope is going to take any shots away from Franz Wagner, but there really isn't much left for him to add to the docket unless they magically start playing a lot faster. But in that case, you're probably going to see Jalen Suggs do a little bit more. You'll see Paolo do a little bit more. I find it hard to see Franz getting more than like an extra half shot per game this year. The way that Franz gets somewhere near his pre-rank is by his three-point shot suddenly getting good, and that would help his field goal percent and his threes and his scoring all together. The nice thing about Franz is that he has a pretty good floor. Like he's just generally a good basketball player. He's okay at the percentages. He doesn't do a lot of any one individual thing, so he won't break you. But taking him at 45 is, in my opinion, bat bleep crazy, because the guys going around him on the board are guys like Derek White, Jalen Williams, Ja Morant, Evan Mobley, DeMar DeRozan, Jaylen Brown, Jared Allen, all these guys that you're just like, okay, so Jaylen Brown's a little iffy because of the free throws. But a lot of these guys are just like, yeah, that dude can coast to like top 50, and then there's room to maybe get higher than that. With Franz, you're like, that dude can coast to top 80, and maybe there's some room to get up near top 60, but getting to 45, that's going to take a leap that's just not really available. Jusuf Nurkic at 69. He falls a little bit into the Clint Capela discussion for me. Not because I think, like, Capela I want absolutely nothing to do with. But Nurk is not that far off there. Nurk last year was number 112 if you weren't punting anything. If you were punting free throws, he moved up to number 62. So it was a similar thing to Capela, where the free throws were the big drag on him. And so 62 is pretty close to this 69 ranking. Still, he played over 27 minutes a game last year. He was largely healthy on a team that also got deeper. That's not to say that I guarantee things are going to get worse for Nurkic. I just can almost guarantee they won't get better. He has a better backup. The team can play more small ball, given the personnel that they have. The backup is Mason Plumlee, by the way. The Suns, by all account, brought in personnel to allow them to go smaller with guys like Tyus Jones. They re-signed Royce O'Neal. They just have, they have pieces now. And Nurk's going to still be the main guy in the front court on offense, but there are going to be games, I think, where they're just like, we need defense. Both Nurk and Plumlee are both decent passers out of the big man spot, but Mason is the higher flying act. He can dunk more. He can defend more. Nurk is a traffic cone on defense. We've seen that time and time again. I don't care about the 1.1 blocks. Guys just go around him like he ain't there. So if anything, say 50-50 shot, his numbers stay almost exactly the same. But the other 50% is they probably go down. Or like 45% they go down, 50 they stay the same, 5% it gets better. I don't see a world where his job gets easier. And so if you're not punting free throws, he's not even remotely close to this spot. And if you are, you've kind of maxed him out. And the last name on the board, and he just does squeak in there at number 94, is Jerami Grant, mostly because I just don't think Jerami Grant cares about winning right now. And maybe there will be a time where he does again, but he's been quite vocal that he's perfectly happy to just be on a bad team, getting a big paycheck and playing some basketball and having some fun. And that's okay. We aren't all motivated by the same things. If Jerami Grant is most interested in a comfortable and cool lifestyle without the pressures of a deep playoff run, okay. But what we've also seen happen to him over this stretch is that he's stopped rebounding and he's stopped blocking shots and he's stopped getting steals and he's basically stopped doing anything besides chuck up shots on offense like a glorified shooting guard. He's just not doing the things that made him a fantasy asset back at sort of the end of his Denver tenure. It was a long time ago now. Bubble run, I think. His blocks are low. His rebounds are absurdly low. 3.5 a game last year. His field goal percent has never gotten anywhere near where it was during that Denver run. Free throw is fine, and the scoring was fine, but I can get that out of frickin' Colin Sexton 2 rounds later, and he'll give me assists too. Jerami Grant was number 121 in 9-cat last year, and I just don't see him caring enough for that to get better. I get it. In the 90s, you're going to be hunting guys that can score a little bit, but that's just not the one you need to do. Take a couple points less and go Austin Reeves or Terry Rozier or Jordan Poole, who probably scores about the same amount, but at least has some assists upside and threes. Go Bogdan Bogdanovic. A round and a half later, he's probably going to score like 2.5 points less and get steals and some assists and threes and a better free throw impact. There's just better choices, even if you want that same stat set. Or take a different stat set. The other guys being drafted around there. Go defense and go Herb or Alex Caruso. Go all around or a well-rounded big man with someone like a John Collins. These are the guys going near Jerami Grant. He's not in the right place on draft day. And the other thing about him is he's not really a punt guy. Punt field goal? I mean, I guess, but you'd be hoping for more guard type stats. I get it. The points are fine, but what does he bring to the table? He's a punt rebounds power forward, basically. I've almost found no teams punting rebounds right now. I guess you could do it with Trey. This is some serious needle threading. So I don't want anything to do with Jerami Grant either. I think he's way overpriced, and I think he's I don't think he's overrated as a basketball player. I just think he doesn't care anymore. And there's your final list, the recap, which I did in Ace Ventura deep breath style on a YouTube short earlier today. Paulo Banchero at 37, Dejounte Murray at 29. This, again, is in order of how I dislike them. I dislike Paolo the most. And then Jerami Grant was like almost an honorable mention because he's going so close to 100. Khris Middleton at 83. Clint Capela, I just loathed that one at 74. Brandon Ingram at 58 is a mess. Franz at 45 is just too early. But that one I don't hate all that much. More of a medium level dislike. Jusuf Nurkic at 69 doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me outside of particular builds. And I also think he's going the wrong way. And Jerami Grant at 94. So those right now, at least, and I should make sure to add that little caveat. Right now, Yahoo Board Revision 2, those are the 8 players that I dislike the most at their current ranks. Please, friends, remember to like right now. Take that second and like it. Please subscribe. These are really easy to do on basically all of the services. They want to make it really easy for you to subscribe, so just click that button. The only thing that's complicated for you guys is an Apple 5-star review. I don't know why they make that so annoying to find. Everyone's like, where the hell is it? You have to scroll way down. You have to go like past the first 8 episodes, and then there it is down at the bottom. It's weird. Spotify, it's right there on your screen. Just click a button, 5-star it, whatever. And YouTube, you can't rate it. So that's inconsequential for those of you that are watching the video. I'm Dan Besbris at DANBESBRIS. You don't have to take my word for it. You can take the word of everybody else. I do way too much on social media, and it's really important too that you're out there and you're following me, because things that break, especially during the season, we're going to tweet about those immediately. Here's your pickup. Here's your drop. This is what you got to do. Here's your game recap. Follow on Twitter. Follow at Old Man Squad as well for any updates about the network, and that one, of course, will ultimately follow you back. And feel free to comment. I'm okay if you guys disagree with me. Do it respectfully. We can have a conversation about any of these guys or anyone else that you think I left off the list as well. Back later on today with another really fun episode. I've been saving these ones as we get a little bit closer to the start of the season. So a good one coming this afternoon. Stay tuned for that. Again, I'm Dan for Old Man Squad Fantasy Basketball. I'm going to leave the board up for those watching. For everybody else, see you later.